I don't know if you believe in things that go beyond explanation, but what happened in Graveswood, I'll never forget it. People in town don't talk much about it, but everyone knows. They don't say his name, but they know him by sight, and you don't ever want to get too close to him. Graveswood is one of those towns that's always just a little too quiet. Nestled between thick forests and overshadowed by mountains that seem to keep secrets of their own, it's the kind of place where you get used to the cold even before winter sets in. Every year, just as autumn turns its last leaves, a man comes to town. It doesn't matter if it's raining or snowing, or if the fog rolls in so thick you can barely see your own hand in front of your face. He shows up right on time. They call him the Harbinger. No one talks about him openly, but if you've lived in Graveswood long enough, you know the rules. You don't acknowledge him. You don't approach him. You don't look at him for too long. He doesn't stay, but when he's here, the whole town holds its breath. That night I first saw him, I was still new to the town. Adam, they called me, and I figured I'd get a drink at the pub. The locals always seemed like they had their own way of being, but I didn't mind. Maybe they'd warm up to me eventually. I walked in, and immediately, the room went quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin prickle, like someone just walked over your grave. I didn't think much of it at first. Small towns have their own way of doing things after all. But then I heard it. A soft, rhythmic tap-tap of boots on cobblestone, getting louder. There was no mistaking it. The Harbinger had arrived. The door opened, and there he was, standing in the doorway like he belonged to the fog itself. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat that hid most of his features. But what I did see, those eyes, dark and cold as death itself, locked onto mine. I felt it, a chill that rushed down my spine and made my blood go cold. The locals, they all looked away like they'd seen something they wished they hadn't. No one spoke, no one moved, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from him. The Harbinger walked slowly toward me, like he knew exactly where he was going, like I wasn't even a stranger to him. And then, without a word, he held out his satchel. It was old, worn, almost like it had stories of its own to tell. I don't know why I did it, but I took it. As soon as my fingers brushed against the leather, a voice whispered inside my head. It wasn't mine. It wasn't even a real voice, but I heard it as clear as day. The gift has been given. You are marked. Death is coming for you. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. When I looked up, he was gone, vanished, just like that. The room seemed to exhale, like it was holding its breath with me. The murmurs picked up again, but no one would look at me. Not one person would explain what had just happened. I don't know how I made it back to my room that night, but when I opened the satchel, I found a pocket watch. Old, tarnished, the kind of thing you'd find in a dusty antique shop. The hands were frozen, but when I touched it, they began to move. Slow at first, then faster until they spun wildly, out of control, like time itself was unraveling. And that's when I saw it. A face, barely visible inside the glass, like a reflection from a dream. A man I didn't recognize, but somehow I knew him. A man I had lost. A man who was supposed to be gone. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then people started disappearing. First, it was just little things. An empty chair at dinner, someone's phone left ringing and unanswered. But as the days went on, people were vanishing without a trace, and I knew, deep down, I knew it was connected to the watch. The ticking grew louder. It was like it was in my head, counting down to something terrible. I tried to ignore it. I went about my day, tried to live as though I was still part of this place, but the fear crept up on me. People wouldn't look at me anymore. They wouldn't even say hello. I could feel the weight of their whispers. He's next. He's the one who's marked. One night, in a panic, I tried to destroy the watch, but it wouldn't break. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, it was indestructible. And then, just as I was about to give up, the ticking stopped. Cold silence. And then, standing in my doorway, was him, the Harbinger. But this time, his face twisted. The face in the watch, his face, was there. Only now it was contorted, like it was alive with something far worse than just a reflection. "Your time has come, Adam," he said, his voice like ice. "The gift has been passed. The cycle is complete." And then, the door slammed shut. I don't know what happened after that. But I do know one thing. Graveswood isn't the same, and I'm not the same. I'm just another part of the cycle now. You'll never find my grave. You won't even know I was here. But remember, if you ever hear the tap-tap of boots on cobblestone, if you see that figure in the fog, don't take the satchel, don't take the gift, because once you do, there's no going back.